And welcome to another wonderful episode of Behind the Mask. And I am back. Look at that. Look at this beautiful face.
Look at that. Look at that sexy beast.
I know you guys missed it. I know Lupin missed it. I know, because he always misses when he doesn't get to see this face. But
Always.
I am Eugene, your host, along with my other host right over here, Dennis. We have a great show tonight, and we have our guest who is now sitting in the green room waiting, which I'm sure you guys have been. If you're follow the show, you know our Instagram. We've got the legend, the man himself, the myth, the legend, the great voice of some of those great paintball videos that we've seen in the past. We have Matty Marshall on tonight. We are excited. Right. I'm probably going to fanboy out, just like when Rich was on. I fanboyed out, and half my brain collapsed because I was just like, I can't believe we're talking about this.
and I mean, cool thing about having Matt on tonight is that now creates a quad for us. We've had Rich, we've had Thomas, we've had Brandon, and now Matt. So 4 excessive players on the show now.
Dude, we gotta collect them all, just like freaking Pokemon.
That's right. They're like Pokemon.
But I'm really excited about tonight. So we're gonna do like a quick little news on this night, just so we can get into our guests. So our guests you could hold out just for like 5-10 minutes more, and we'll have you on. So, but how are you doing, Dennis? It's been a little while.
It has been a while. It's been a while. Yeah. I'm doing okay. You know, kind of trying to avoid getting, mauled by my patients, but.
Yeah, and as you guys see, I'm normally not in this because this is not something I want you guys to see me in, but tonight I have nothing else to throw on. I am still at work. As you can see, it's also a blank background. Internet sucks for me tonight, so that's another wonderful thing, because that's the great thing of being all the way out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, for me,
you signed the contract, man.
I know I did. I'm so dumb. And then I signed the contract again, and then I signed it again. It's like one of those moments where it just hits me that I'm like, what am I doing? What am I going through? What am I thinking of? I don't know what's going on anymore. It's just. And then I remember I did it for the money.
Yep, pretty much.
Yes, Lupe. My disc is running out of minutes, so I've got to go and probably find a new disc to get some more hours loaded up on because of stupid AOL. But really quick, guys, we want to tell you guys where you guys can find us. You definitely find us on Instagram, on Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and you could also Gmail us. We have a Gmail. So it's all Behind the Mask Media. And when it comes to the Gmail, it's Behind the Mask Media, all one word, @gmail.com. So if you guys have any suggestions for the shows, want to come on the show, anything like that, you could actually DM us on Instagram, which is always the best way to get us because both me and Dennis check that. Or you can email us, which we normally check it on a regular basis. So
that's right.
Definitely, best way to get a hold of us and find us. So, and right now you guys are probably watching us on one of the 3, which is YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. So thank you for joining us, Lupe. And Mike. I can't forget Mike. All 2 of you guys. It's great. Love having you guys on as always. And tonight I do not have my wonderful drink, which is our official sponsor of this show, Ghost. We love providing them money, and they provide us with energy. They haven't provided us anything else, but we still love them. So tonight, it's brought to you by water for me, because I had my Ghost earlier today. Thank you, Ghost. And also, the great smell of Dr. Squatch. Love that stuff back there. Look, Dennis has got his there. I don't bring mine up here, because if I drop the soap while I'm in the shower up here, it's not
we don't need Matt leaving the show before he actually comes on.
I already got the big green weenie once. Don't need that.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just going to apologize to everybody right now.
Well, I'm in this. That's what you get. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So I could take it off, but you guys will get scared.
See? Look at that. I'm out.
Oh, yes.
And no, Lupe, we cannot forget you. Not at all.
Oh man. Yes, and our guest is already coming in. Love it. All right,
Yeah.
guys. So we're gonna start off with a little bit of news. So let's start off. Dennis, should I run the little buffer? I'm gonna run the bumper because I mean it pretty much is within that line. So some tourney talk. Something popped up on Instagram, and Dennis has been following it a lot closer than I have.
Yeah.
We are wondering what's going on. If you
Yeah.
guys don't know about the Sacramento Diamonds, well, what happened, Dennis?
Well, so kind of out of the blue, it was suddenly announced that the entire roster of the Sacramento Diamonds of the WNXL had been cut, with no explanation given, at least not to us, the public at large. I actually saw it from one of the players' own personal Instagram. She didn't really give any reasons aside from just that, very thankful for the opportunity to play in the WNXL and, the friendships and so on. But it just was very kind of abrupt for one. And then, of course, the rumor mill started. And depending on who you talk to, it ranged anywhere from just kind of, hey, we want to just build from the ground up to all sorts of other things that, we discussed that on the previous show. So I don't necessarily want to rehash that too much. But that being said, I found it kind of interesting that maybe a week later, suddenly a new Instagram account popped up by the name of the Sacramento Storm. And in the bio of the account, it says that it is a women's team based out of Capital Edge Paintball with all of the same sponsors that the Diamonds had. Now, as of yet, they have not posted anything, pictures or any other updates or anything like that. But it seems kind of interesting. And I don't know, maybe when Matty comes on, if he's not bound by, an SDA or something like that, maybe he can talk, or NDA, I should say. Maybe he can talk a little bit about that. But so as of right now, we're just kind of watching and seeing what exactly happens. Don't know if this is going to be a new WNXL team that is going to essentially take over for the Diamonds, or if maybe it's a like a divisional team that is just calling Capital Edge home, and the coincidence of sponsorship is just kind of exactly that, a coincidence.
Yeah, we don't know, and we don't want everybody to think, oh, these guys are just out there spreading rumors. But the thing is that's what we heard. They're just rumors. We don't know yet. We won't know until somebody, gives us that's more privileged to that information to tell us, hey.
Yeah, no, and that's true, Lupe. It doesn't actually say they are in the WNXL. It just says that they are a women's team based out of Capital Edge. That's very true. Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up.
Again, we're not trying to start any rumors, but it's just what we've seen. So is it coincidence? Is it, what was that? Oh man, I wish I would have downloaded. I was thinking about downloading that one from that show with the guy that played number 1 in Star Trek Next Generation. He had that one show where it's like, was it Believe It or not?
Oh, Ripley's?
It was Ripley's, right? Where he
was Ripley's Believe It or Not. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the host of that one, so it's Believe It.
Yeah, for a brief period, yeah.
So moving on from that, because you know what, we don't want to continue those rumors. Who knows? Somebody might come around and tell us some more information. So next thing Dennis brought up was the Infinite tournament paintball game.
Yes.
What do you know about that, Dennis?
Yes. So this is kind of a hot property right now. It is essentially a VR paintball game that has quickly gained a lot of support, and it's still technically in its pre-alpha stage. However, as I said, it's on everybody's lips. If you're playing any kind of VR paintball, you definitely want to check it out. And it's actually gotten a lot of support to the point where even a DLX GOG is allowed them to use the Shocker and the TM40 in the game. You know, the actual designs. Planet Eclipse has given permission to use their guns in the game. So this has definitely got a lot of, if nothing else, moral backing, moral support. And the graphics look really good. I mean, obviously it's a VR game, so you know it's going to have that very realistic, you know, slant in that it's literally you playing, but it's a departure from the other more widely used paintball program that's out there that a lot of teams are using to, you know, kind of essentially virtually walk the fields before events and stuff like that. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to do. It's available on Steam right now, so you should be able to download it. But as I said, it is still in its well, yeah, I guess it's technically its alpha stage, maybe pre-beta stage. So obviously changes could come at any time, and the guy that runs I should say the guys that run the Instagram account constantly updating, talking about tweaks being made, giving a full you know, timeline of, you know, when they expect new stuff to be added, when they expect to have the next, you know, major update for the game. And so it's definitely worth checking out. I would highly recommend anybody go take a look at the Instagram. I think you'll be very impressed.
Now, do you think this could be kind of like the next Greg Hastings style game that it's
Ooh, I actually had that same thought process, and I mean, I'd be hard pressed to not draw a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that we get another game very similar to Greg's. I mean, Greg Hastings, that first game took off like gangbusters. Like they did not. Nobody expected that game to do anything, and it ended up being extremely successful.
Greg was the only one that expected to be #1 on the shelf on Microsoft. And I heard the story about it where he actually went out to Microsoft and said he pushed the games over. I don't know if he was exaggerating, but he was telling the story. He pushed the games over and said, my game's going to go right here at #1 ahead of the #1 game at all time for Microsoft, which was, you know, Halo at the time.
Halo, yeah.
When it came out, the way it went, he ended up putting his right up there, surpassing Halo at the time.
And now that you mention it, I seem to remember a certain somebody who's coming on the show in just a few minutes. I believe he was in that game as well.
Seriously, I mean, think about that. Being part of that's history, and we have that person.
That's paintball history if I ever saw one. And that's saying something.
His backwards hat and everything too on there.
Yeah, wearing a WGP jersey, because this is back then. Oh man, that Carney. Oh, I still have dreams about the Carney.
Dude, he was one of the players that I did, and not to, you know, blow smoke up his butt since he's here right now, but I actually was excited to be able to use him on the game. So,
so was I. Him and B were always on my squad.
Yeah, definitely. Mine too. Oh my God. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that is going to be it for, I would say, tourney talk. So let's bring us out of that. Yes, Lupe. Both of them were in the game. I remember.
That's right. I forgot.
And really quick, we have one more thing to talk about. Which is we haven't heard that bit in a while.
That's true.
Another thing that Dennis found out, because Dennis has been doing a lot of research. Unfortunately, I've been between work and doing all the behind the scenes for this show and for our other show. Dennis has been doing all the research, but this is actually a really cool thing when it comes to gear. They're bringing back the Revy.
It's not even that they're bringing it back. It's back.
It's back.
It's available for purchase now.
Dude, that was my first hopper that I got. Well, I mean, aside from a gravity feed, that was my first electronic hopper.
Yep. I think that was almost everybody, you know, from I'd say probably mid-30s on. That was your first loader, you know, and then from there you went to the egg, and then from, you know, halo or what have you. Although there are a few outliers out there who, they were like, well, actually, my first was a ricochet. But we don't talk about that.
We don't know, But I'm actually excited because I'd like to put that thing, spins slow enough for my pump, but drops in the balls. It was actually a really good little loader. I love that thing.
It was decent. Now I have not had a chance to look deeper into it, and since Lupe's in the chat and he's basically got a pipeline to a lot of that stuff, maybe he can clarify. But I don't know if the internals are going to be exactly the same as the old school Revy. But when I saw one on a marker shooting, it does look like it feeds faster than the original Revy did. So maybe they made some adjustments to the internal, but operates on 2 9-volts just like the old one does, except apparently if you're using Duracell, the loader does not like using Duracell. You can't close the battery door.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So everybody,
but it's
Energizer or
Energizer or like rechargeables.
Yeah.
But so far everything that people who have actually gotten their hands on it, they're talking about how impressed they are with the build itself. It's a slightly more sturdier plastic than we remember. Okay. And the other nice thing is that it is speed feed ready,
which is awesome. So they look the same. I'm just happy that they're bringing
back a smoke loader, right? So it's currently available in solid black, smoke, and olive drab green.
All right, sweet. All right, moving on from this. It is time, guys. I know this was like really, it seemed to me really long, but that was pretty quick for us to go through all of this stuff that we have, because we got to bring in our guests now. We kept them in waiting long enough, and my light just went out. It flashed in my face.
It's fine. We can still see you.
Okay, good. I thought the camouflage might be blending into the background now, but it's white, so we're all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow. Okay. Dude, we're gonna kill this.
We're gonna lose him before we get him on. So before we lose him, all right. Before we lose him, Matty, stay, don't go away. I'm not always like this. I swear. All right. So enough. We're bringing him in. Without further ado, let's bring him in.
Hello.
Going on,
Damn. Oh my God. Look at that.
How you guys doing?
Wow. Doing good. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, honestly, I can't say thank you enough.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, believe me, this was when I reached out to you, I was like, Dennis, he's not gonna
say anything.
I mean, we did have Rich on and stuff, but I was like, this is Matty. I mean, I don't know. So
well, it's important to me that stories are being told, and I think we are kind of in a little bit of a renaissance as far as media is concerned. It's not even really a renaissance, because that kind of speaks to like a reawakening of something. It's more of like almost a new paradigm, just because with the diffusion of technology and your ability to reach people, there's so many people have started their own podcasts since COVID. And, every time I go to events, the amount of people there, kind of taking pictures. And I mean, just at the past couple events alone, I've had so many kind of off camera, just personal conversations with creators that are trying to do cool things. And, I've been here for so long. It puts a smile on my face, and it kind of warms my paintball soul a bit, because so many people give a shit enough to put their efforts out there. And so, when I hear that people are doing like the kind of stuff that you guys are doing, it dovetails perfectly with what we're all trying to achieve here.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think it could have been put in any better words than that. Which actually, kind of allows me to dovetail a little bit into your growth from, I guess transitioning from being an active player going on to the broadcasting side. As I think it's very safe to say you really are the voice of the NXL right now. We already saw snippets of some of this with, and I'm going to reference it, Eugene, the opening to Sunday Driver.
Oh my God, yes.
That speech, I kid you not, Matty, that speech inspired so many people. It literally gave us a purpose, but it always blew me away, because in the times that, we quote unquote shared a field with you at one point, when back in the days of the MPPL. We were at Huntington Beach. We were walking onto the field as you guys were coming off, that type of thing. And you've always had this, much like Rich, you're super intense on the field. You are out there to get it done, but as soon as you step off, you're very laid back. And I think maybe people underestimate just how, I think they underestimate just how intense but intelligent, paintball players in general can be, but you specifically, like I say, because you can do so much, and you're so eloquent with not only the way you speak, but you're boom,
Well, the intention is always to just try to be as useful as possible. I think I have a about to be 3-year-old son, and as he gets older, if he ever asks me for advice, one of the things that I will tell him is to try to just be as useful as possible to the people around you, whatever that may be. So in the context of a paintball team, there are it's not necessarily rules, it's principles, things that have worked in the past and will work in the future. And there's a certain mindset and a certain mentality that you have to bring to that battle in order to give yourself and your teammates and the people that have chosen to ride along on your journey the best chance of success. And then that also carries on to everything else. That's one of the reasons I call them the gifts of the game. There's the microcosm of paintball lends to lessons that will vastly improve your chances of the macrocosm of regular life. And so in between the nets and in the context of a paintball game, a certain ferocity is required. And if you can't bring that, well, you're probably not going to do as well as the people that can. There are a lot of different other attributes that a human being needs to have to prevail at an elite level, but that you really, if you look at I'm a huge history nerd, as you guys can tell. I love reading books and learning about how we got here and how what works, what doesn't, how did what actually happened, what didn't. And if you look at the very specific context of organization around why is the U.S. so badass at winning wars? Well, one of the things that we're really good at is that at the kind of squad leader level, our military has prevailed at really kind of building the sergeants and lieutenants and corporals into being people that can take charge when other people die, and or are incapacitated in some way, shape, or form. And these are not necessarily conscious things that you bring to I wasn't thinking that back in the day,
right?
It's like, this is just it's a situation presents itself. You have certain attributes that you either I want to say are born with, because you can definitely there are certain things you cannot teach. You can't teach somebody to sing, really. You can make it better. You can't teach height. It's tough to teach speed, but the tenacity required to be a good teammate and to be a leader, there are certain qualities there that you can kind of bring to light there. So, and then long story short, but it was a very, very, very important to me to not fuck around when when we were doing what we all were trying to achieve, which was to be the best paintball players on planet Earth. And then
Sure.
into, to doing broadcasts and telling stories, it was important to me to try to bring whatever I had to the table in a way that other people could, again, so it could be useful to other people. And words are very underestimated weapons. And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, and because a human being is, we're just kind of storytelling machines. Are the way the brain is constructed. You're either telling somebody else a story to get them excited about something you want them to do. You're telling yourself a story, sometimes to justify the situation that you may be in, to, go back in time slightly to justify something that happened to you, to make it make sense so you can move forward, or to tell yourself a story of where you would like to go. So, all these different things kind of come into play. But yeah, ferocity is absolutely a giant part of it. But the charisma required in those moments, because when it's all said and done and the guns have stopped shooting and you're, quote unquote retired, you're not going to be judged at, this is a cliche, but it's so true. You're not going to be judged on how you did when everything was going well. You're going to be judged by yourself and your peers by how you did when things were not going well.
Right.
And so that was, that kind of, even though the people that are really close, I'm not exactly the most stoic human in most things, but when shit gets gnarly, I try to be as stoic as possible, because that is, the utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number, and trying to find a way out of the morass of a moment that is not going well. The clarity of that is cannot be overstated, so.
Absolutely. No. And see, that's a perfect example right there. You have just such a way of putting it into terms that anybody can understand, but it sounds that much more. You have like a gravitas, for lack of using a more, douchey word.
I like that you use the word gravitas. That's kind of a cool word. As an English major, bro, as somebody that writes, I like when people use, give me the $5 word, so I dig the gravitas there. Nice work, Dennis.
No, I appreciate that, but it's true. Again, it's not butt kissing, because, again, referencing that opening line, the opening speech from Sunday Driver, it speaks to every player, and especially then, because that was the time when we were still, heavily involved in the tournament circuit. And that was what every player was striving for, was getting to Sunday. And
well, that was an interesting piece, because I think I was 21 when I wrote that, and I was going to San Diego State studying creative writing and playing for the Los Angeles Ironmen. And we were kind of, there was a revolution happening in the game of paintball that we kind of really didn't know at the time was a revolution. So the demographics, the age range of people that played the game was changing. The format was changing. The technology was changing. There was a lot that was changing at the time. So when Patrick Spohr came up to me and he said, hey, because we had already, Push was already in the books. So Push had come out, and he said, hey, I'm doing, I'm filming Sunday Drivers, and I'm getting close to being done, and I want you to write like an opening monologue for it. And I had never done anything like that before, so it was very intimidating to try to do that. So I asked him, I said, well, okay, it's like people that do anything for anybody. It's like, oh, you're going to pay me money to do something, and it needs to be, really good and professional. Okay, cool. What do you want me to do? That's kind of how things typically work in the world. Oh, all right. Well, you have an idea to create something. What is it that you would like me to create for you? And he said, well, I can't tell you what to write. He's like, just write your experience. And so I, basically kind of created that to try to encapsulate as a time capsule. And I didn't really know it at the time it would be so evergreen, something that, we're talking, dude, I'm 45 years old. I'm almost twice as old I'm older than twice as old as I was when I wrote that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
I mean, we're contemporaries, so
Yeah, we're all the
I
same
mean,
age.
you guys don't seem to have as much gray though in your beards as this
oh,
shit.
I don't.
As
Well,
this is
it's
setting
because
in
I
pretty
shaved
hard right
mine
now.
off. I shaved mine off, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
have no hair.
Hey, we're on the same tip, Dennis. We're on
Yeah.
the same tip. Eugene, your hair looks glorious, bro.
You know, I take some tips from Jeff Munoz. So, you know,
Matt, they have a contest going back and forth to see who can do the better smirk. You know.
You got a good one.
thank you.
But
That's what I'm here for.
yeah, well, no, you're nailing it. But yeah, so you know, so it was just kind of a little bit of an intimidating moment because it's not a write this specifically. You know, it was just a write your experience. Now, I did specifically though, if you listen to that piece, and anyone that's unfamiliar with it, you could probably find it on YouTube, but you know,
Yep.
it's from this seminal documentary from you know, I think unarguably, you know, the greatest or at least original documentary filmmaker, Patrick Sporer, who did Push and Sunny Drivers and Serial Killers 1 and 2, and then Heroes for a Day.
Yep.
He's actually back now working on the Hormesis project, Untitled
Yeah.
Hormesis
Yeah.
project.
I mean, everybody was excited to see Monkey with a Gun back. I mean, that was just.
But those are two different things, though, because so Pat sold Monkey with a Gun to the guys that are running Monkey with a Gun, and Patrick.
Okay.
So Patrick, it's a longer story, but so Monkey with a Gun, as it currently exists, those are some other very passionate filmmakers. I saw one of them at the airport at this last event, and they're trying to create the next Serial Killers, but that's not Patrick Sporer.
Got it.
Patrick Sporer is back, and he is working on so Hormesis has a untitled art project, quote unquote, film that they're working on. That if you wanted to talk more about that, you should probably get Alex Frazion, because he would be the guy to kind of connect with on that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
they don't return our phone calls.
Well, I know a couple guys, so I could probably get you hooked up. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, so with that specific piece, I wrote it in second person on, like, specifically because first person I, third person he or she, right, or they or whatever, so omniscient. There's different ways to approach perspective, like a point of view. But I wrote that intro specifically in second person because second person is incredibly personal. I'm like, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing this. So I could have said we, but I intentionally made it second person so that it had more of a connection with the person that was listening to it, because I'm speaking directly to them. And then I tried to put it in a certain sort of a context that it was, obviously certain details have changed. And I've seen it quoted in different ways, and and it's kind of one of those things where it's like it's just the world now, so right. People want to change it a little bit to their own thing. I've even had I remember Brian Cole from Dynasty came up to me and was like, dude, thank you so much. I'm like, for what? And he's like, oh, I got an A in my English project my senior year. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Why are you thanking me for that? I didn't do shit for you, And he's like, oh, I just took your speech in Sunday Drivers and turned that in as my essay. And they loved it.
Wow.
And I've heard that story, bro, more times than I could count. So, it's fine. That's great. It's kind of like you write a song and then it just kind of becomes the world a little bit, the worlds, plural, a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of interesting stories about some of those things back in the day. And honestly, that piece almost didn't even happen because there was some miscommunication between Patrick Sporer and Brian Benini at the end of that project, which was a very long project to bring to fruition. And so when we went to go record it, Pat and Brian got into an argument on the phone while I was sitting there in Pat's truck or van, and I didn't know if we were even going to record it. And it was kind of a heated argument. So I just walked away, and the sun was setting. This was up in northern San Diego County. We were right by the beach. So I just kind of went and watched the sunset, not really knowing if that would ever get recorded, if it would be a part of the project.
Wow.
And then I kind of wandered back after about 20 minutes. I'm like, hey, we doing this or not? And Pat's like, oh, yeah, we're going to do it. And I'm like, okay. And Brian, postscript, was very gracious about the whole thing, and he's like, he had said it wasn't anything against you, or I just didn't know what was happening, And so again, you know, when you're working in the creative world, anyone will have an understanding of this, whether you're married or you have a business partner. Like sometimes the gears grind a bit, and it's not as smooth as it could be, because when you're trying to do things that people have not done before, it can get confusing and convoluted. And this was one of those instances. So that almost ended up not happening, but it did.
Wow. And could you imagine the face of paintball had that not? I mean, I honestly, I don't know if we would have had that growth in the, you know, the late 90s coming into the early 2000s had it not been for that movie. And then, you know, Serial Killers, Heroes for a Day. I mean, that ushered in such an iconic time. And I know we're being very revisionist and, you know, looking at everything through nostalgic goggles, because, you know, I'd love for Seven Man to come back. I long for the days when, you know, you felt like a rock star walking onto the field, you know, at the MPPL. But I mean, honestly, you're just, even that monologue is such an iconic piece of what shaped paintball to come. So,
well,
you
I
know.
appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the project would have existed no matter what. It's just kind of, it's just like anything. It's like, which is to me so fascinating, because this is my, you know, this is my 30th year in the game, and my 20th year calling paintball games. And I did double duty for a while. I did commentary and played in the early to late 2000s. So there was a decent amount of overlap there, but just kind of when you look back, it's one of my favorite quotes. It's not a quote because I will butcher it. I can't do the quote exactly, but are you familiar with the band the Eagles?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen the
best-selling album the year I was born?
Have you seen the documentary about their story?
Yes.
Okay. The 2-part documentary?
Yes.
Yeah, it's fucking epic. So in that, it's so crazy that Joe Walsh ends up being, and you know, and I have to throw an asterisk on this because, you know, growing up, I listened to the Eagles. I was not, you know, like big Eagles fan as somebody born in '77 as a child of the '80s. Like the Eagles was kind of just some shit that my dad listened to. You know,
yeah, but it was still part of our childhood.
100%. It was definitely part of our childhood. But before I watched this documentary, I would not have said, if somebody put a gun to my head and was like, "Are you a big fan of the Eagles?" I need an honest answer. I'd be like, "Yeah, they're cool, but I don't really give a it's not that." It was of no consequence, really. I mean, it was, the music was there. It was a, you know, kind of a soundtrack of my childhood, as anyone that grew up in the '80s. But I didn't realize how gnarly their story was. And then, so I watched that documentary, but it was fascinating. And after I watched it, this is just a symptom of one of my diseases. But if I watch anything, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be about knitting. If I think it's fascinating, I love people that are really good at things. So when I see something that's a very thorough, deep dive, and I'm a sucker for story, obviously. But if I see something, I just immediately become a prophet for it. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm like, oh, did you see, you know, bro, these dudes, yeah, they got like this crazy betting circle where they, you know, they play like they shoot cannons at trees, bro. It's insane. You know what I'm saying? I just made that up, but you know, it's just one of those things. Like you know, there's so many different little fascinating subcultures out there. Anyway, so I watched that documentary. I'm blown away. So good. If anyone is out there hasn't seen it, go get a chance to see it, because there are so many lessons of how life actually works when you're trying to create things in that documentary. Two big ones that stand out to me was Joe Walsh ends up becoming the, you know, the philosophy beautiful sage, you know, discussing and thinking back on these things, which is because he was the degenerate alcoholic
drug
trasher, like the complete asshole guy, you know, who was untamable when he was young. But one of the things he says, he's like, you know, again, I'm gonna butcher this, but this is a, you know, solid paraphrasing of it, the concept. He's like, you know, as it's happening, everything seems to be in complete chaos. There is disaster at every turn, and it looks like everything is falling apart at all times. But after it's done and you look back on it as an old man, it looks like a finely crafted novel that's just absolutely perfect in its dramatic turns. You know, so when I look back at the history of paintball, it reminds me a lot of that. And the other thing that I want to mention before we move on from that documentary that people should definitely watch was when Glenn Fry is talking about, he's like, you know, when I grew up, I knew I wanted to write songs, but I didn't know how to write songs. Like, I didn't know how to create this thing that people are going to consume and want to enjoy. I had no idea how to do that. And I lived above Jackson Brown. And when he was writing Doctor My Eyes, and he's like, and that was when I learned, and he's like, and every single morning I would wake up, and we kept late hours back in the day, and I would wake up every single morning and I would hear a teapot go off, and I would wake up and I'd hear him start first verse, first chorus, and he would play it 100 times. And I would hear this through the bottom of my floor. And then he would stop after playing it, 50 to 100 times. And then the teapot would go off again, and he'd go get himself some tea and he'd sit back down. And then I would hear first verse, first chorus 100 times again. And he's like, and then I started to realize, as I was kind of annoyed by this, he's like, this is how it's done. This is how great things are created. Time, insight, elbow grease, work, so it's and that's how all of the great things that I've ever worked on in the game of paintball have been created.
Fantastic.
Crazy. Man, I feel like I'm just a pretty face on this one, because you guys are, hold on really quick. Oh, no, the door that comes from the break room to back here.
Oh, yeah.
This is what happens when you
But
give.
I'm at work. No, don't close this door, because then I'll lose signal. this is the stuff that I get to deal with when I'm here at this wonderful base. But anyways, so like Dennis was saying, I mean, everything that you're saying is, man, Matt, you are just so truly it's just flows from you. And it's just awesome to hear, just everything that you're saying. And Dennis is right that had it not been for that speech, even myself, had it not been for that speech, I don't think I would have pushed and gotten more into tournament ball. I probably would have still been a rec ball player and maybe found out about tourney and been like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I'm doing the woods thing. But it's what pushed me to want to become even better and have those really cool moments where you're in that airport and you're like sitting there and it is like you're taking a red eye to freaking Buffalo to go play some paintball, and people are looking at you like, well, where are you going? What are you doing? And then you come back and yes, you might have that freaking welt on your neck. And you're like,
exactly.
Yeah, everyone's had that. The neck.
Oh, yeah,
welt.
But it's the story that comes along with it,
Yeah.
I may have lost every single game, but I just flew to another state to go play in a tournament and had the time of my life. And
gift of the game.
It's been ingrained in us now, and it's now become a passion, and that's why we do what we're doing right now. And that's why you've been doing what you've been doing for so long, because we all know that this thing isn't just a game, not to us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not.
To put it into more like layman's terms, Gary Baum, paintballphotography.com. I'm sure everybody knows Gary.
Yeah.
He said paintball is as he described it, LWOP, life without parole.
Yeah, it's once it gets in you, it never gets out.
Yeah,
it never does.
But
why is that? Like, let's dissect that, right? I mean, the reason why is because, we, particularly in the Western world this lap of luxury that we live in, and I'm not saying we're rich, but historically speaking, we very much are. We're safe. We're rich. Again, when I'm taking the cosmic view of humanity here through its evolution. And so, but we did not evolve to, for me to sit in this air-conditioned, comfortable library in my office and have this discussion on this, this supercomputer here, essentially. Like, that's not how we evolved. That is the exact opposite of how we got here. In an eye blink of time. And so the patterns that our brains need to feel fulfilled exists still deeply ingrained in us. And paintball can give you those things. And you can't overstate the power of that. Like you just said, you could literally go to a tournament, lose every single game, and come back and still want to go back again. Yep. Because it's that endeavor is giving you gifts that essentially fulfill your being as a human soul walking around on planet Earth, and now there can be problems with that if you're letting that passion you're succumbing to that passion to the deficit of your regular life. But I've noticed so much, and I you notice I noticed this before when, especially guys my generation chasing the paintball dream, it didn't work out for them for whatever reason, not making a living or whatever it may be, maybe didn't win what they wanted to win. But almost all of those dudes, the guys that I remember from 10 years ago, they're back playing 10-man or back coaching, and like it just never ever goes away, because it gives this thing that I think has a really shitty name. Paintball is a really shitty name for what this is. It's because the name is slightly frivolous to the experience. The experience is so profound and so big and so climactic for some people, and it's not for everyone. This is another thing that I have to explain to people all the time, because people are like, oh, why isn't paintball this or why isn't paintball that? I'm like, not everyone's built for this, bro. I mean, most people, it's like most people that are, Anglo, that are from, when I did my 23andMe, it's like, oh yeah, your family's been from the northwest of Europe for 1,000 years, and you're like, oh yeah, we're Vikings. It's like, probably not, maybe. I mean, I'm definitely have some blood that came from Dublin and from back in the day, and I'm pretty Anglo-Saxon, but like, who knows, dude? I mean, most people were just peasants living on a farm, not trying not to get killed, and have half their kids die of pestilence, So it's like, but we're all human beings, and it's like Dana White used to say. Dana White, UFC. He said that the reason for the UFC success is because we are all human beings and fighting is in our DNA. And he would say that if there was a world, he's like, let's picture an intersection where there's a World Series going on, a Stanley Cup and an NBA Finals, and everyone is on their way to go watch their sport of choice, the biggest game of the year. If a fight breaks out, a big ass fist fight breaks out while you're walking to your seats to go to the World Series. I'm a huge baseball fan. If a giant fight broke out and I could watch that fight, I'll probably run over there and watch that fight, man, because how often does a fucking fight break out? It's just, it's in our DNA. It would be like, oh, what's going on over here? Oh shit, it's a fight. What's happening? It's just, it's in our DNA.
If it's the Stanley Cup, I mean, that's pretty frequent. But then that's coming from, I grew up playing hockey, so
no, and you're right, yeah, and there is fighting in hockey, but still, if even on the way to the Stanley Cup, if some crazy fight broke out, it's like you're like, oh, what's going on over there? It's just like a knee jerk reaction. So now the way that I would I've stolen that quote, and then also said that if en route to that fight, all these people are going to their best game of the year, and a fight breaks out, and then all of a sudden you could safely watch a gunfight go down, again, it's in our DNA, man, so, and this is something that people don't want, especially in as the world gets softer and softer, and that's a good thing. I have a kid and want to have another kid, and I don't mind the world being soft, because I don't want to lose half my children to some sort of disease. And I would, then when they're digging up the bones, again, as a student of history, it is unfortunate how violent our species has been. But there is lessons in the applied applications, why sport has captivated the human mind so much in the past, about 150 years, since the late 1800s, especially since the explosion of telecommunications technology. But anyway, sorry, I don't. My wife calls me long-winded. I don't want to go on too many tangents.
No. I mean, you don't have to apologize, because all of this is relevant to. It's still relevant to the sport today.
Yeah, and this is something that, well, not so eloquently have we said it, but we've said that
we've said along those lines, just not quite as well as you.
Smaller words and shorter sentences, but you had brought up the military. Well, obviously, I'm wearing this uniform, unfortunately, for the last 13 years. And squad leader, I've been in that position for too long, leading soldiers and doing all that other stuff. And we've said this in past podcasts, which is, so I'm in a very small subculture in this country, and the camaraderie, it's hard to tell people how the camaraderie works with us and why we become so close, and why even our own wives, our own families are like, you're a lot different with us than you are with them. You're something else. And the only thing I could see this type of camaraderie happens is with paintball also.
Yeah.
Because it is a subculture to a subculture, because we are put into the extreme sports subculture. Well, even the extreme sports don't really want us. So we're in our,
they
still
want
in
nothing to
our
do with it.
little bubble again.
For real.
And the camaraderie that is built around in this community is phenomenal. It's amazing. The love that is spread between all of us, because we may not see each other for like a year. We'll see each other at one tournament, and then when the next time we see each other, it's gonna be like no time passes, because we have this one thing that we have in common, which is paintball, the love, the
Yeah.
sport, the fight. We know what it's like to be on the field. We know what it's like to win. We know what it's like to lose. We're the only ones that know that and can feel that.
Yeah.
And
Well, Eugene, because, and thank you for your service and providing the blanket of security upon which we sleep under every night. As a San Diegan, I know. I mean, I know. Drink, right? That's like you got to drink. I don't know if you guys play that game, but a lot of the dudes that I know are like, yeah, anyone thanks you for your service, you got to drink. But is that, dude? That just makes so much sense though, because again, paintball is hard. It's humbling. It's a very difficult thing, and it requires a big dose of mental tenacity, a certain level of physicality, your ability to, I mean, even Dynasty, so Dynasty has won just in the past 2.5 years, they've won about half of all of the pro paintball tournaments that have been played. I think it was 8 of 16 at the last one. I'd have to do my count again, but whatever, let's just say half. Well, if you're winning half, you're still losing half of the time. So there's a certain amount of difficulty that you have to deal with it. And when you combine all of these different factors, it ingratiates you to the people that are willing to endure that with you. So similar to the military, again, as a paintball guy who grew up in San Diego, which is, they used to joke that like San Diego itself is the biggest military base on planet Earth because we have like 6 of them just in our county. So and I've spent a decent amount of time on Camp Pendleton, having, in RIP Pendleton paintball now. Anyway, but it's just so I've, got family that are in the military, and it's just, it's a similar situation there. Like you're undergoing certain privations that other human beings don't have to deal with, certain stressors that other people don't have to deal with, certain jargon and very specific life situations that other people don't have to deal with. And it builds a tribe. And we are, one of the most defining characteristics of the human species is that we are very, very tribal. No matter how much we want to say that we're not, that's kind of the way our brains are built. Even the most newest neuroscience is telling us this, so this is just, it's something we have to fight against to try to, but also accept and embrace when it brings positivity to things, because shit has to get done. And we're better as a group than we are as individuals. As much as I am very individualistic when it comes to certain things and rights and that sort of stuff, man, you are a fool if you think that you are a self-made man or you can accomplish shit without a team, because you are always stronger with a team than you are by yourself. The only reason that you exist, that any of us exist, first of all, it took a mom and a dad for you to, male and female, for you to even be here. First of all, that's the very first thing. The whole, it takes a village to raise a child. Anyone that's got a child with help, people that live around you that are willing to help, Jesus Christ, that's like the truest statement ever said, because those kids eat up what people around them say. Very much I am a product of not just my parents, but also the older men and women that I grew up around and that talked to me as an adult before I was an adult, to give me, information I needed to know to help navigate myself through this world. And all of these things are present in the game of paintball and all organized sports, but paintball is specifically visceral. It is, sometimes you will do the right thing and you will get injured, or physically tenderized, so to speak. And there are not a lot of, football is that way, but there are not a lot of sports that are that way, because a lot of sports are not quote unquote contact sports. And paintball, technically not a contact sport, but Jesus Christ, dude, you're going to get bruised up. And you go to a real legit high level tournament practice and you grind and do what you're supposed to do to get better, then yeah, you're going to be getting in that shower, you know, physically
Sore.
exhausted at the end
Yep.
of the day, maybe
Yep.
potentially with 100 welts on you, you know,
Yep.
so, and you're going to feel great about it. And again, that's one of the gifts of the game, because you know, in order to make a muscle strong, you have to destroy the fibers so that they can rebuild. In order to make a human being's brain more resilient, it has to be tested, and sometimes, you know, checked, sometimes be put in a position where it's going to feel absolutely horrible. And paintball does that to you on a regular basis.
In so many ways.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
definitely does, dude.
In
It's
so many ways.
yeah.
I mean, and you know, Lupe's in the chat right now. Lupe Leva. I mean, he's said over and over again that World Cup is probably the one event that, you know, any player out there, if you're going to attend any event, even if you're just going as a spectator, World Cup should be the one, because it's like a big family reunion, you know.
Oh yeah, World Cup's great.
I mean, you're seeing all these people that you haven't seen for, you know, a long time. And you're seeing these people that I just saw you a month ago in Chicago, and now I got to look at your face again in Florida. You know, it's like that type of thing. But it speaks to that camaraderie that, you know, the community as a whole has. I've mentioned it before on a previous episode where Eugene and I were out at SC Village. We were doing we were filming the Decay of Nations, and my kid had left.
Great event.
Oh yeah, it was really cool. To be honest with you, that was the first big game I had ever attended, and it was really, really something to see.
Yeah.
But my kid, actually, my kid and Eugene's kid, they were sitting in my car listening to the radio. Well, the battery died, and I didn't have jumpers with me. I didn't know what I was going to do, and literally the guys that were staging right next to us, hey, I think this guy over here said he's got cables. If he can, you know, I'll bring my car around. And all these people, I've never met them before. All of them stepped up and said, hey, let's see if we can get your car jumped. Now I understand that that's kind of a, you know, a very minor example, but it's an example of that very same, you know, kind of, like you said, it takes a village to raise a child, and it's that same kind of you know, network and camaraderie that I'm always amazed by.
Well, people are always, you know, the human brain is built to be vicious, but it's also built to be gracious to strangers, you know. And there is an altruism that also runs as a vein through the human brain when you do something altruistic, something, you know, good for someone else that you don't really necessarily get anything back from. That's what altruism means. Sure. You actually do get something back, because when we put people in MRI machines and study their brains, and you do something altruistic, you actually do get a dopamine hit from that.
Yeah,
but
there's chemical change in the brain, absolutely.
But the thing is, what with paintball is that it's I used to joke to my wife, and I've joked to other people about this, that it's kind of like a real life Fight Club. Because when, you know, it's like when you know, it's like for instance, went to play golf. I lived by some really cool neighbors, and brother-in-law of my neighbor, you know, again, cool young family. And then her sister's married to this dude named Justin. Nice dude. He plays golf. I play golf. Anyway, long story short, he's like, invites me to golf. I go play golf with them. I show up, and this, as I roll up, the dude's this big giant of a guy, young, probably, you know, maybe 30 years old, but he's like 6'5", big stout kid, or adult now. Anyway, but he looks at me and he's like, "Are you Matty Marshall?" And I was like, "Yeah." And on my better days, and it's a little early, so give me some time. But he was a paintball guy, you know, so he just happened to. It's like small fucking world, man, you know. Yep. And so like I'm like, well, he's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Who'd you play with?" I'm like, "You play tournaments?" He's like, "Yeah, I played with," I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it was a Southern California divisional team when he was, you know, 10 years ago. And so we ended up riding in the golf cart together, and it's like, you just make new friends, but it's like instant connection. It's like the second you're like, oh, you're a paintball guy. It's not, and even if if you've played paintball, cool, but I'm talking about like somebody that's devoted a little bit of their lives to playing the game at a high level, you know, and that doesn't need to be pro or like a high level divisional. I mean, just the fact you play tournaments, Like if you
Yeah.
play tournaments for more than a year, like dude, if you were on the tournament grind for a couple years, bro, tip of the hat and respect to you, because that shit is hard at
It
every
was really
level.
hard.
At every
Very
level. But it's like
Oh, yeah.
for me, that's instant respect, because that means it's kind of like it's like, why do you go to college? You know, I'm not, and again, it's a false equivalency here. I'm not exactly saying it's the same thing, but the purpose is like if I meet someone that has a college degree, then, and I'm not saying you have to do this, there's lots of ways to make money in the world, but that tells me a few things about you. One, that you can show up on time enough and jump over hoops that the system is going to put in front of you in order to achieve a goal. You know, so
Yep.
if I know that you have played competitive paintball for a couple years at any level, you're a tough fucking dude, man, or chick, you know, like you're just a tough human, because that, you know, that means you had a job that you were able to, or means enough, like whatever, you had the means to do it. But you had, because you're not going to last on a team for very long if you're an asshole, if you show up late, if you're not a good teammate, if you're not getting better, if you can't perform in pressure situations. You know, there's all of these certain boxes that have to be checked to be a teammate on any sort of high level anything, like, or just any sort of competitive paintball team for a long period of time, right? So if I'm like, oh, someone's like, yeah, dude, I played in the MPPL for 5 years, and you know, we got to D2 or whatever, I'm like, bro, you know, you're my peoples, you know, like that just, it just tells me something about you immediately. Same shit as if you own a business, same as you have a college degree, if you're in the military. You know, if you're in the military for, like you said, Eugene, 14 years,
13.
Yeah, that tells. So there's certain things I know about you that you do not have to tell me about you, you know? So I know that you can exist in pressure situations. I know you can deal with a hierarchy that may sometimes be bullshit. Hopefully none of your superiors are listening right now. But you know, it's like there's just a lot of stuff that goes down that certain people can participate in. And the second you tell me that, and I qualify, okay, that's really who this person is. Okay, cool. Now I know a decent amount about you, and you don't need to tell me shit about you. I know certain things about you, and it's going to open the door a little bit for me, because, you know, sometimes you meet regular ass people, nothing against regular ass people, but you know, there's a lot of people out there that suck, and there's a lot of good people in the world. And as an adult, when you got shit going on, you got family, you got things you need to accomplish, it's like we put up our guard sometimes, but the second you hear that somebody's like a paintball person, you're like, where'd you play? For who? Oh, tight. How long? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna hang out with this person over here for the rest of the barbecue. You know?
Yeah, right. Exactly. See,
Yep.
I wish we had these kinds of conversations back when, you know, when we were still active on the tournament circuit. And I'm gonna throw it out there, Matty, because I'm sure you probably saw us walking around. Eugene and I both played for Keebler, Team Keebler.
I remember the Keebler. Yep, I remember the Keebler team. Yep.
We were one of the Keeblers.
I remember that.
Yeah. So,
yeah, now that you guys say that, you actually look a little familiar. Now that I'm kind of like putting it all together. It's been a while, but I can.
It's been a long time. Well, and then on top of that, so it's funny that so you mentioned paintball. Yeah, we've grinded it out. We've played the tournament circuit, and then you mentioned, you know, an entrepreneur, business owner. We were the ones that were doing Sunday clothing way back in the day. So I don't know if you remember Sunday clothing. We were also going around with cameras, and we had guys all over the place. And we actually followed the MPPL for 2 years.
Yeah.
And we did 2007's promos. So all the posters you saw everywhere, especially at Huntington Beach, we did all the graphic design stuff for that.
That's
awesome. We were out there doing all that stuff. So we've gotten a taste of the paintball industry, and yeah, it was a lot of fun back then. And yeah, we've been around for a little while. Took a little break, but like you said, everybody always takes that break, and then sooner or later you end up coming back.
You can't get away.
You can't get away.
You can't get away.
And it will always be there.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing, is like I grew up playing hockey. I literally had aspirations of becoming a professional hockey player.
Your facial hair, Dennis, definitely tells me that you grew up playing hockey right now.
What's that?
I said your facial hair tells me that you grew up playing hockey.
Well, I don't know. Wait.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, you have so it's not just a standard beard, you know, like just dudes. Yeah. It was like I saw Ben Challenger, who's Canadian, plays for Infamous, and he had like a mullet with like this mustache or something, and I was like, I walked up to him, didn't even say hi. Hey, bro, how you doing? I was like on my way to go take a piss in the 3 minutes I have in between games sometimes. So I'm like jogging over and I see Ben Challenger. I'm like, oh, bro, nice hair. Look like you're in the NHL right now, or like maybe the feeder league, and then just ran right past him, because or like Sam Monville, another dude that just has hair just straight
Oh my
out
God.
of like
The mustache and the hair. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, but as a dude that's had lots of crazy facial hair, respect, you know what I'm saying? Like I used to have handlebar mustache.
You know what?
If my wife liked it, I'd probably cut that shit back in, but I, like sleeping in my own bed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I'm not above admitting, I rocked a backwards baseball cap with the, I did imitate you a little bit on the field. And I tried to do, it's called a Burnside. So, the mutton chop with the mustache.
Yeah.
Tried to do it. And unfortunately I just looked like Ned Flanders. So I shaved it off.
Well, hey, I'm super pale and I started losing my hair at an early age, but I got great facial hair and luckily a pretty decent voice. Not, there's again, we all have our things we have. Some people, have certain things to bring and, it just is what it is.
Mike, Slapshot is one of my favorite movies ever. So, yeah.
It just moved down for you, Matty. It's okay. You know.
Yeah. Well, thank God I can grow a beard because, like, once you go bald, bro, if you don't have facial hair, it's like it looks a little strange. Like if you don't have some sort of thing going on here and you just are completely bald, the whole deal, it's like, it's
unless you're JD. JD pulls it off pretty well.
That's true. Some people can do it. But it's just one of those things that I just I'm actually stoked that I don't have hair anymore because it just makes my life a lot easier.
It's awesome.
When you get to shave
go in,
your head,
you literally just
it's great. Yeah, save it once a week and don't have to worry about it. I haven't had to pay for a haircut in like 15 years. It's been great.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, haircuts are not getting cheaper; they're just getting a lot more expensive. I'm so tired. I don't want to say I'm tired of hair because I do love my hair, but
you still got hair. It's not even gray yet, bro. You should enjoy the shit out of it while you can.
Which is interesting because Eugene's Mexican. They go gray early.
This is true.
And I can say that because Eugene's like my best friend in the world. He's like my brother. So
hey, dude, I'm from San Diego. Half the high school I went to was Mexican. There was dudes that had mustaches when I was like 5'3". I'm looking up at this dude like, this dude's 14? How is that possible? Dudes I played baseball with. Yeah, some of my best friends growing up were Hispanic, bro. Like, again, this I'm a muy poquito español, but like it's it's just one of those things. Like growing up here, it's like you gain a great respect for the Hispanic culture. It's like anytime I travel somewhere and people be like racist to Mexicans and be like, oh, there's lazy. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? You ever met a Mexican?
You obviously
the hardest working people I've ever met in my entire life. Crazy,
right?
Dude, yeah. My grandfather, who lived to be 98 years old, when he was in his early 90s, he was still climbing on top of the roof, fixing the roof of like his garage. I remember seeing him up there. Like the man never really stopped. And when he did, it was because he had a hard day's work and he was just chilling in his chair. And it was just like, it was.
But when he did, he was listening to some borracho music and probably drinking a Corona though, right?
Oh, heck yeah. He was just right there. It was in his hand. I'm like, that's my grandpa. All right, cool.
Yeah, dude, we would go to like parties from our buddies and stuff like down in Southeast San Diego, and you roll in and like all the old Mexican dudes would just be like grilling up, super nice, crushing Coronas, playing that like it was just always called borracho means drunk in Spanish. Eugene, I know you know that. Dennis, you probably know that too, but some people might not know that. But it's like there's a name for that. It's like the party music that the Hispanic culture listens to. It's got like trumpets and
it's like banda. Yeah, it's like banda.
Yeah,
great. It's great. Yeah. I love it. When I worked at Dye, when I was, one of the ways I worked my way through college was working in the warehouse at Dye, and there was a lot of dudes that didn't speak a lot of English that worked in the honing and polishing department, and I did, as I was for a couple years, if you bought a dye barrel, I was the one that glued it together. But in order to get that barrel made, I had to make sure they got polished and honed, and all that. So there was a kind of the production within the warehouse. So I had to go back and all these dudes barely spoke any English. They were all awesome. But it was just like, they would just have that music just cranking, bro. 20, like just every single, like as soon as the second we got in at 8 o'clock in the morning, they would just have that music blasting, which I kind of really started to really enjoy after some times. Cause it's like,
it grows on you.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. It grows on you. you hear it and you start to get into it, and the next thing you know, you're crying with Vicente Fernandez.
Dude, it was a regular thing around. Obviously, I grew up in East LA, so it was a regular thing every day that you hear the music. And then of course every Friday, every Saturday, and every Sunday, there was a house somewhere down the street that had a huge party going on, and you hear the I'm like, oh my God. All right. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning then.
It was
Yeah.
great, though, man. The Hispanic culture is great because they're hardworking, so they really enjoy the time they have off because a lot of times they don't have a lot of time off, and so they were just very much about friends,
Norteño. Yeah, there
family,
you go.
working hard, and enjoying the shit out of the time when they weren't working. So it's like, yeah, I got a big soft spot in my heart. I'm not just saying that because you're here. Like again, like born and raised San Diego. The high school I went to was about half Hispanic. And so was the middle school, and it just, I love that culture, man. It's just like, it's like what it would just, it's like home, that's just kind of part of it. So,
and the food.
Oh,
dude, I would live off Mexican food. That's my favorite food in the world. It also hey, Dennis, where do you live? Where are you from?
I'm born and raised in Southern California.
Okay. And then you said you're from East LA, Eugene?
Yeah.
So doesn't it piss you guys off when we go anywhere other than Southern California? And also, as a San Diegan, I feel like LA food, Mexican food is trash compared to San Diego. This may start a fight, but California in general, and then anywhere else, and that Tex-Mex, and I'm gonna piss off the Texans right now, bro. Stop putting rice and beans in everything. It doesn't need to be in everything. When I order carne asada burrito, I want carne asada, guacamole, and pico de gallo. I don't need rice and beans and water my shit down. That could be on the side. Don't get me wrong. I love rice and beans. They're delicious. I don't want them on my carne asada burrito. And but it would just be,
stop listening.
Yeah. Again, I know this could start a fight, but it's like with the Ouroboros eating its own tail. Like we all love it, but then you get like very particular on certain things. It's like it's like the Eclipse people versus the Die people, or and everyone starts arguing about stuff. It's like, hey, bro, we're all on the same kind of team here. We're just really arguing over particulars. But yeah, like I don't mind going to Texas to eat their food there. I do like Tex-Mex, but everywhere else is pretty trash, dude. Like, I mean, we got some tacos delivered to the field for lunch. That's some Chipotle shit. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Rice and beans, dude. Give me the meat. Give me the pollo asada. I'll take any of that stuff. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I could literally talk about Mexican food all night, bro. I love Mexican food. That's like, if I had to eat one type of food for the rest of my life, it would be Mexican food.
Yeah.
So
anyone that knows me will say the same thing.
Well, I got a story about that. So I went to Louisiana last year. I went to do this. It was a huge exercise, and we were out there. We were stuck out there for a month. We were stuck in one little area on the base, which is Fort Polk. And again, I'm going to probably piss off the room just because I have two rather pale gentlemen in here, but really white girls roll up, and their trailer says tacos. And I was like, that's not going to be good. And like, everybody's like, oh my God, we're just hungry because we're just getting either MREs or this garbage at the defect. So they're like, it says burritos, man. How bad can it be? I'm like, no. The answer is just no. Don't. There was a line, and it was like most of my guys that were lined up right there just because tacos and burritos, and the girls were cute. I'm like, okay, first of all, no, bad combination. You got to have some squatty, fat little Mexican lady cooking that stuff up. Otherwise, 100%. It's going to be garbage.
Totally. I would never say that because I'm not trying to come across as like, that I need some like squat, some old Mexican lady that's 5'1", who's from deep South Mexico. But just from my experience, if I go to like a whole, and I always tell people come to San Diego, I'm like, hey, don't go down. Look, Old Town's great. Old Town Mexican Cafe Coyote, they're great. They're delicious. It's fine. But you're probably better off finding a hole in the wall that has a Birdos at the end of it, at least in San Diego. If it's got it could be Alibertos, Rodabertos, Ray Birdos, Roy Birdos, like Rigor Birdos, whatever. Yeah. There's a million of them. Just find someone with Birdos at the end of it And if it had it, and it could just be, it doesn't matter how horrible it looks on the outside. Just go into that, and if there's like a 5-foot tall Mexican lady who's 60 years old cooking your food, I promise you that will be the best burrito you've had, period. Especially if you're not from San Diego, that's going to be maybe the best burrito you've ever had in your entire life.
Yeah, definitely. Because
that's a true statement, dude. That's,
that's
scientific right there.
Oh yeah,
Hands
because
down.
when these guys got their burritos, one, the tortilla wasn't even fully cooked, and you could tell because it was like, and they're like,
doughy?
hey,
Let me
do you
guess,
wanna
ground
take a
beef?
bite?
Was it ground beef?
It was like they took one of our MREs, and because we have a taco MRE, which disgusting.
Bro.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And the tortillas are like, it's like mashed up Play-Doh because it's got to last us for like 20 years. And that's what it was rolled up in. I just took a
Got a
bite.
story for that.
Dude, when you have the taco MRE, that's you're usually your last day of your training because you need something to clean you out from all the other MREs. That's how bad it is.
That sounds horrible, dude.
It's so bad. Trust me.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is this for bad though? So some years ago, I actually worked as a civilian contractor for the Navy. I worked out of Seal Beach, the weapons station that was there. So I actually used to travel down to Fallbrook and further down into San Diego because, you know, we're transporting ordnance and stuff like that. Anyway, we had gotten a contract to catalog and kind of determine whether or not all of the magazines in Guam were still had serviceable munitions in them, and from there determine where they should go. And there was this one magazine that nobody had a key for the lock, so we ended up having to cut it open. And from the door, now mind you, these are huge. They're like, you know, basically like Quonset hut, if you know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And from the door, about maybe 10 feet in to the back wall is just nothing but these wood crates. Like, what the hell is in these crates? There's no identification on the outside or anything. So we crack one open. It's full of spam from the 1950s.
Oh Jesus! I'll eat some spam, but I don't know about the 1950s spam.
Still good.
Matt, we opened a can purely to quench our curiosity. It looked edible.
I mean, I'll eat. My wife messes with me all the time because, like, I'm the I'll eat anything person because I've traveled so much and I love food and I'll eat whatever. Like, I'll eat pretty much anything. And I do love spam. I had an uncle when I was younger that taught me the deliciousness of spam. Been to Hawaii, love my Hawaiians. They love the shit out of some spam. Anyway, but yeah, I'm glad you said that because I will say sometimes, well, I'll be like, this will keep forever. It's canned. Like, we keep it. It's literally sealed. Like, this will last for 50, 60 years. If people somebody opened like a piece of canned chicken from 80 years ago, ate it, we're totally fine. They literally thought of a fucking mastodon out of the
Siberian tundra
and ate it, and they were fine. You know, it's like, I'm like, dude, if it's frozen or canned, it's not really going to go bad. There was like a meme. There was like a meme the other day. You guys would probably love this. It was hilarious. Maybe you saw it, but it was like somebody had some pink Himalayan sea salt, and they're like, on the label was like, you know, 300 million year old Himalayan sea salt, and then it had an expiration date on it. And someone was like, "Oh, dude, bad day for me. My 300 million year old Himalayan sea salt has gone bad." You know, it's like, bro, there's certain shit's not going to go bad. If it's frozen, it may not taste as good, but it's not going to go bad. If it's canned, not going to go bad. If it's salt, it's not going to go bad. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. Well, hey, Matty, if you are ever up in our neck of the woods, I'm over in Mount Clair, I will hook you up with some carne asada. When I barbecue.
Yeah, Eugene cooks it up. He does.
I will do the homemade rice, the homemade beans, the carne asada. You'll have some good salsa. And
we gotta try and get together. Thankfully, NXL is coming back to Vegas next year, so we will be there. So we got to try and hook up and see if we can't find the best Mexican food in Vegas.
Dude,
I know it's gonna be tough,
Vegas has some, like, one of the things because I've been going to Vegas now for think the first Vegas tournament I went to was in like 94.
Yeah.
So I've been going out there over the years many times, and they have, they have some legit, they have like a Roberto's chain out there and some other legit, if you were from LA or San Diego or certain parts of Texas, you would go there and be like, all right, this is just as good as what we got at home, or close, and if you're from anywhere else, again, it might be the best burrito you ever ate. But I was actually shocked about that, because when I went to Vegas, and it was like the very first paintball tournament I ever went to in Vegas. I was another buddy of mine that he was in the service too. Eli Santos, Puerto Rican dude from where is he from? Carson. And so anyway, love Eli. Shout out to Eli if he ever sees this. Great dude. Santos family was dope. Anyway, so we were lost for like 8 hours. We drove all around the entire valley where Vegas is in, looking for this paintball field. And this is before cell phones, before we didn't. This was in like 1995.
There's no GPS.
Yeah, there's no GPS. Like, you just had to figure it out. Anyway, we were literally, and I'm not, no exaggeration, we drove around the entirety of Vegas looking for this paintball field, and we were starving. And we pulled over and ate at a Roberto's there, and I got a carne asada burrito, and I was like, holy shit, this is essentially a carne asada burrito from home. And that was the very first time I was like, wow, Vegas has some legit Mexican food.
Nice.
Which was, again, and at that point in time, I had spent some time in LA a little bit, even at that, tender young age of like 16, 17. I've been up in LA a bunch for paintball in different parts of LA. And I was like, oh, the Mexican food's good here, but it wasn't, again, what I was used to, but way better than when I started traveling around. And I remember I was on a gig in like Minnesota one time, and we went to this college town, this Mexican food spot, and it was like snowing outside, and I didn't choose this place. And I'm in there and I'm like, this is bad news. I'm telling them, like, why are we going to this Mexican food place in Minnesota? This is a terrible idea. Why are we doing this? Can we just go get like a burger somewhere? This is like, why are we in a Mexican food place in Minnesota? So,
right.
So then I tried to do the best I could. I was like looking at the menu. I'm like, okay, I asked the waitress, I'm like, what is the most popular thing on the menu? Like, literally, like, what do you sell the most of? Thinking that if it's the most popular thing, I can't go wrong there. And
sure.
Because they're going to, one, it's going to be fresh, because that's the thing they're pushing the most product of. And then two, it must be somewhat palatable because it's the most popular thing on the menu. And it was this like a wet quesadilla thing with this cheese sauce, and I got it, and it was absolutely terrible, bro. It was just like almost unedible. The cheese sauce was like rubber. The meat inside was like this, like boiled to also rubber. It was horrible. I was like, I can't believe this place is in business. How is this place in business?
Because they have no palate for Mexican food out there, and they got no Mexicans.
Yeah.
Well, no, they do now. Because I actually have some buddies who live in like Wisconsin, Minnesota area and stuff like that, and there's quite a few there now.
Well,
so,
now,
I don't know, maybe
this was a while ago, and that's another thing I love about the Mexicans is they are everywhere. They're very resilient, dude. Yep. They're very resilient, so they are everywhere, and they will make you an amazing. Just pick your meat. They're going to season it amazingly. They know how to work They know how to work an avocado into something called guacamole. Shit is delicious. They also know how to make multiple different types of hot sauces. If I walk into a place and there's one type of hot sauce, I'm like, or salsa, I'm like, what? Why? I need like 3 or 4 different types because I want to mix them all together and see how that shit tastes.
Yeah.
So, Matty, needless to say, you're a huge fan of Mexican food. So
sorry, I know. Well, I can't remember who I was talking to on the Instagram. We said we were going to get some tangents tonight, and then I love rabbit holes. I love all rabbit holes and tangents, but I didn't know Mexican food was going to be one of them. But bro, I could literally talk for 2 hours on Mexican food. I'm sure we got some more paintball. We probably should move on to some paintball shit, but I would be completely content to talk Mexican food all night because anyone that knows me knows that is like a religion to me. So yeah.
No, you know what? The cool thing about with our show is that, dude, we'll talk paintball, sure, but especially when we have a guest, we want to get to know the guest, and we want everybody to get to know you.
Yeah.
Outside of
these are the things that the average paintball player, the person that's out there, these are the things that they don't know about you because nobody bothers to take the time to get to know you as opposed to you as the announcer or a former pro and things like that.
Well,
So.
I'm very much a San Diegan, man. I mean, my family's been in California for 6 generations on my dad's side. I'm born and raised in San Diego. I have intentionally decided to stay here, even though I could have moved different places for different opportunities over time. My family's here,
Sure.
and barring the apocalypse, I will never live anywhere else. So that's definitely part of my identity, is that it's a very, like, San Diego is a place of transients. It's a place, no, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not talking about like homeless transients. I'm talking about people that come from other places to make their lives.
Yep.
Transplants, immigrants, and what I love about this place that I have tried to take a slice of over time into my own personality is the can-do attitude, and also the in certain. So I've spent a lot of time in LA, Chicago, Miami, New York, the different cities in Texas, whatever, name a big city. I've been there for a decent amount of time, and I've noticed that, especially like a New York, there's a certain kind of and I appreciate this because it's a very I love people that are willing to work hard for their dream. But with LA and New York specifically, is that it does attract, and there's assholes everywhere. But if you're trying to make it, you want to prove yourself to the world, and you're trying to, create something of yourself, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. But to me, sometimes in LA and New York, sometimes a lot of that place is like a magnet for people from other places that have like a big chip on their shoulder that are kind of a little bit too much, a little too harsh for my taste. As a San Diegan, we get the overflow of that, so we get the people that, we get a lot of people. Obviously, we have a big Hispanic community here. It's a very multicultural community. So to me, like when you hear about this like multiculturalism stuff now, I'm like, that was just, that's like air, bro, or it's like water's wet, 2 and 2 is 4.
Yeah,
that's just life, So at one point I was a manager when I was, working my way through college. I was a manager in a movie theater, and me and my 2 buddies were like the only white dudes that worked there. Like literally everyone else was mostly Asian, and then some Hispanics, so it was like we were out of 35 people that worked there was 3 white people that worked there at one point in time. And and that was fine. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a shit what you look like, what size you are, where you come from. Like, all I care about is, and this is the paintball thing too, because what do you bring to this? What do you have to offer to this? We're doing a thing, like, and we all have to do this thing together. So you could be 5 foot tall or 6'5" or 400 pounds or 98 pounds or old or young or Mexican or Filipino or Vietnamese or Chinese or white. I don't give a shit. The only thing I care about is, are you a good person? Are you going to do what we need to do to collectively accomplish this goal? Can I spend time with you? Like, if I hate you, it's because you're an asshole, like, I don't give a fuck what color or creed or what religion you come from. Like, none of that means anything to anyone that's intelligent, to me, so it's like, and growing up so when I say I'm San Diegan, that's what that means to me, because I didn't have a choice in that, so it was like, that's how I was raised. That's what this place is, and it attracts a different, it's more of a dreamer type scenario than it is the New York or the Chicago or the Miami or the New York, or the LA, because in San Diego, it's like, it's a little, I wouldn't say harder to make it here, but we don't have, like, we have great jobs and there's a big economy, but it's not those places. It's not a hive like those other places are. So to me, it breeds a certain amount of can do, love everybody type attitude. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of vibe that I want to bring to everything that I do, so it's that come one, come all, but it's only but to me, it's like the meritocracy is the most important thing. To me, meritocracy is everything. That's the most important thing. It's what can you do for us? Like, and that's how I look at, like, what can I bring to this? We're working on a project. Well, these are the things I have. Here you go. What do you have? Okay, cool. Right. You got this. We got this. You can do this. You can do this. And then that is how greatness is done.
Man, that's words to live by right there.
That's just seriously, honestly, it's deep. It's like, geez,
Yeah.
I got to move out of LA. I got to go down to San Diego.
Well,
I mean,
I mean,
it's still expensive, brother. It's just a
that's
little
true.
tiny bit less expensive, but it's still expensive.
That's why I actually at one point I was doing work down in San Diego, and I actually worked at Camp Pendleton Paintball Park with actually Sandy Johnson, which AJ
Yes.
Johnson's dad.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sandy's
Yep.
close with us. Yeah.
Well, it used to be. I
Or
haven't
was.
spoken in years,
Yeah.
but
We haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah.
but worked
yeah.
with him on the old paintball field, revamping it, and then worked with Sean Walker, moving over to the new one that just now the RAP to paintball park. So, but worked down there for a while, and I actually almost moved down there. I really loved it down there. When I was there, it was just definitely a different vibe as you're walking around, even when you're in downtown and all that stuff. So yeah, it was fun being down there in San Diego.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. It's just like, obviously I'm white as snow, and with all the stuff that's in the zeitgeist of our times these days, but it just, again, as a San Diegan, the way I was raised as like a dude from my age where we all came up, it's like some of this stuff pisses me off because I'm like, man, I don't give a fuck what you look like, dude. I don't care. Like, I just, like what are you good at? Like what can we all do together? And how are you as a person? I mean, I know that's like a pie in the sky type thing, but to me, it's not. That's everyday life. That's like,
yeah, exactly.
That's just how it is.
Yep.
Because that there's no other way. So anytime I would go somewhere and hear a certain thing, I'm like, and I understand, the complexities of the world, but man, it would just kind of piss me off because I'm like, this is not how it can be. Like, hey, let me show you this other world. Let me show you places like San Diego where we got everybody and they got to find a way to work together because it's been that way for a long time,
Exactly.
Definitely. I mean, my wife attributes the way I am sometimes to being old. She's like, you're just old. And it's like, no, I'm not. It's not just that I'm old. It's just, I'm kind of like you where it's like, it pisses me off to hear all these things that are going on. And it's like, we can just get along. I mean, you don't have to force things down our throat. If we just work together, be cool with each other, there we go.
Yeah.
I mean, anyways, all right. That's a little inner working.
But that's a paintball thing too, man. Like, because again, when every paintball team I was ever a part of and how I look at the sport, it doesn't matter, because look at Kyle Spica and Mouse. They're best friends, they're business partners. Tiger Wear, shout out to Tiger Wear. They are both very fit, but they're drastically different sized human beings, and they both essentially play the same position, and they play it well. But
their styles are infinitely different as well.
True, and that's the thing. But that's, again, another gift of the game. Yeah. It's a metaphor for life. Like, we are going on this endeavor together, and these people are going to be shooting at us, and we're shooting back at them. And once that happens, do you think any rational, intelligent, logical human being gives a flying fuck like where you're from or any of this other stuff? No. Can you make the snake off the break? Can you shoot inside and shoot that dude and do the job? Or are we trying to punish our way down the snake side? Or, that's all that matters. And that's a metaphor for life. All that matters, the only thing that matters is what you bring to this. That's it. It's like there was this, I think it's like 6 harsh truths that will make you a better person or something like that. It was an article that was written like 10 or 15 years ago.
Sure.
But the guy uses a great metaphor to start out the article. And he was just basically like, I wish that somebody had told me this when I was 14 years old. And he has this list of things, and you could go YouTube it or I'm sorry, go Google it. Not you guys, but anybody that's listening. But the very first thing he says, he's like, imagine that you're walking down the street and you're with your mom, and your mom gets shot. And then as your mom's lying there on the street bleeding out, a person runs up and he's like, how can I help? And you're like, oh my God, thank you so much for coming up here and asking. Like, you must be a doctor, or you wouldn't be asking me to help in this, or to help in this situation. Yeah, my mom, she's bleeding out on the street and she's about to die. Like, are you a doctor? And the guy's like, oh, wait, why would you possibly? No, I'm a great dad. Like, I'm really good at all this. It's like, no, I need a fucking doctor right now. My mom is bleeding out on the street. I need
Yeah.
a doctor. That's what I need. I need somebody that knows what they're doing in this situation to help stop this from happening, because this is how the world is right now. Like, and that's a metaphor for all of life. The world is bleeding out on the street and needs help. What can you do to stop that? You know, so ask yourself, what can you do? Are you good with numbers? Can you tell a story? Can you run businesses? Like, I mean, I'm not saying that, of course, you should be a good father. Of course, you should be nice to your children. Of course, you should be involved. Like, but that has nothing to do with you helping the rest of the world. Now, in the aggregate, on the long term, of course, the better of a parent you are, the better your child's going to be for, you know, for the future. But but it's triage at all moments. Like, anyone that's been involved, you know, it's like Eugene, you're in the military. Dennis, I'm assuming you've done a lot of different things in your time. Everything is triage, right? It's like, all right, well, holy shit, like there's something going on right now and I need to fix this. We need to draft this business proposal, or we need to, fix this technical thing over here, or whatever it may be. But that has to get done. And somebody has to be able to do that. And that is
it's a very appropriate analogy for me as well. I'm 20 years in the veterinary field, so
there you go. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, that's a real thing. That's life or death right there. You know, so that's kind of that's those scenarios. So the way I look at things is that not everything is life or death, but if you can create things that are potent enough for the world, that are potent enough that when the world consumes it, that it motivates either an affect or an effect, two slightly different things, but and that can propel people's lives in a way that will make it better. You know, so that's kind of how I approach everything that I do in paintball, and all the people that I work with. So I try not to work on projects that I don't feel are going to have some sort of effect that's going to, motivate people in a positive way. I don't dwell in rumor or bullshit. I try to just magnify the moment and people's stories and try to, give it as much of a, because it's like, especially with like the voiceover stuff or the commentary, I want to, it's the engine's important, but I'm not the engine. It's like impact and damage. I mean, I talk to these guys and, we'll have off, camera discussions with people about certain things. But at the end of the day, I'm up there, the game is going on, and it's incredibly important to me because I love it. But I want to elevate what the story, it's like we're taking what's happening, we're codifying it with words and terms, and I'm trying to elevate certain levels of dramatic moments and put them on pedestals as something that people can consume in a digestible nugget to motivate them to give a fuck and to continue to carry on their interest of the game of paintball. Like, that's my job.
Yeah. And to that point, Matty, I really have to give you a lot of credit for conveying that very message, with Destiny winning their first title. I mean, you summed it up so well. And I could, everybody who listened to that cast, they could hear in your voice. I mean, you had pride in watching them, every event, they this close, but they, and then they finally get their championship. And I mean, you couldn't watch that and not feel something,
Well, as somebody that's, I've been watching that Destiny story for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the closest to it.
But I mean, you and B go way back.
Yeah,
you've been friends
me and
for
B,
a long time.
we go way. I know B before she was married to Mike and had a child.
Yeah.
Like, I've known B forever, right? So, but it's just such a cool story because, and I am a fan of the WNXL because I do think that as a sport, it does make sense for us. And obviously it's difficult because it's in its infancy. When I was listening to you guys do your news about the Sacramento Diamonds, is that, prepare, look, everyone, steel yourselves for more of that. Like, this is just how it is. Okay. So when anything gets going, it's a very topsy-turvy, derision-riven environment where it's going to not be in 5 years even close to what it is now. Like that. Pro paintball isn't that way. We constantly have teams coming and going. the for men's, the WNXL is going to be the same way. So it doesn't shock me at all if somebody had come to me as a betting man, if somebody had come to me last year and was like, okay, one of these, 8 teams or 6 teams, it was 6, now it's 8. One of these teams is going to fall apart in the next 24 months. What's your over under on that? I would have been like, probably 80% chance that's going to happen. That's just how it is. It's difficult because, again, it's not like, we're trying, and this is something everyone has to keep in mind. Like, paintball is in its infancy still. Like, we are not, we don't have these, no one's going home to their mansions and driving Lamborghinis around, crying into their $100 bills and they lose a tournament. This isn't these things that have been around for 150 years, so the fact that these women are out there doing battle to help build this is crucial. The one thing I would say to all of the people, like, if they have enough money to run these teams, try to do as much of telling your story as you possibly can. And don't expect that the NXL is going to do that for you, because, and this is just anyone, if you're in a divisional team or like look at you guys are doing your own podcast. This is awesome. Like, this is what's possible. So if you're, take ownership of your own story, so it's like, and it's a really cool thing what Destiny did. Like Vibe won the first tournament. I mean, the Femme Fatale's been, the Heroines, there's like these, but Destiny is the OG female team. So to see them struggle, well, they weren't struggling. They were, again, but when you're at that level and you haven't won, that is struggle for you. Whereas everyone maybe patting you on the back, be like, oh, second place, congratulations. I just had this conversation with the New York Extreme guys at the last event because, they're getting good enough where people are coming up to them and they're like, oh, dude, congratulations. You guys are crushing it and murdering it away. They've lost one game in the prelims in 3 events, one game.
Yeah.
And they're just murdering teams in the prelims. And then they've made it slightly deep on Sunday. And so they are getting a lot of fans coming up and be like, dude, props, bro. That's so amazing what you guys are doing. But in their head, and this is what I told them, I said, hey, don't get it twisted. Don't let all these accolades, these accolades are nice, but it cannot have you deviate from your goal, which is to win a paintball tournament. At this point, you guys are getting good enough that if you're not making into the top 2, they haven't made it there yet. But if you're not there, it's a failure. And if you don't look at it that way, you're never going to get there. So, and I just, but yeah, I love, because we're keeping an entire 50% of human beings on the sidelines without having like a female only place to play, so I'm stoked that there is a WNXL. I think it's awesome. And yeah, it was really cool to see Destiny win because, they are the OG female, paintball team, and to see them put it away and take that win in Florida at the Sunshine State Major was dope. Interested to see what's going to happen at the next one. And then, but also prepare yourselves for a lot of turnover because, again, it is very, very difficult to commit your life to play at a high level, even for a couple tournaments a year. So, personnel wise, team name wise, I mean, we're probably going to go through a ton of turnover in the next 5 years for sure. There's no way it doesn't happen. Like that happens in every single time in every variation of paintball that we've ever played. That will be what happens. It's just who survives the battle of attrition and who can condense their teams and become the greats on that side of things. Cause it's up in the air. If you look at, Vibe did good last year, and then now Destiny this year, Cheetahs taking second place. Heroines are up in that mix too. We got a couple new, teams in the mix on the female side of things. A lot of that happens. I have to get through secondhand, or I have to go watch it later. Just because that's all happening when we're doing our shows, and our shows are very intense. We're on air for, 10 to 12 hours a day, 3 days in a row with very, very little breaks. So it's kind of tough to keep abreast of what's happening while it's going down over there for me.
So that being said, I'm curious on your thoughts. Do you feel like maybe the WNXL is a stepping stone towards eventually seeing co-ed pro level paintball?
Again, that is up to the players. I mean, I would love to see that, but that is completely up to the players. Meaning that here's the level of play, and I don't care if it's a girl or a guy, or again, black, white, Muslim, Christian. I don't care, but there is a level, And that's one of the cool things about paintball at its high, at any level, is that it's a meritocracy. So the only thing that matters is how good you are at the game. That's it. You know, that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing we're talking about. And people will sometimes say, "Oh, Matty, hey, say," you know, they'll joke, "Hey, say good things about me." And I'm like, "Hey, you know, if you haven't got this speech already, I'm gonna give it to you right now. It's a very simple equation. If you're playing well, I'm forced to talk about how awesome you are, and I have to learn your name. If you're playing like shit, well, I can choose my words to talk about how shitty you're playing, but you're still playing like shit. So it is what it is, and you did this to yourself. So I mean, it has very little to do with me. It has mostly to do with you. Again, I can choose the words to describe it, but at the end of the day, it's, are you doing well or are you not doing well? So as far as like co-ed paintball, I'm not opposed to that at all. All I care about is that, again, it's a meritocracy to me. So, you know, that's all that matters. If there's a female out there and she's as good as a male, because and this is just like a public service announcement in the game of paintball. Again, no one cares where you're from or what the fucking deal is. All that we care about is how good you are. So if you are like if you're like the female Oliver Lang coming up, or the female Ryan Greenspan or Marcelo Morgat, whatever, pick your paintball hero, and you come up and you show up to a practice and you're shooting everybody, you don't think you're going to play because you're a girl? Absolutely, you're going to play, because every team wants to win and there's a lot on the line. And so if you're better than that dude, then you're going to get on the team. So bring me those women. Let me see them. You know, like, I want to see that. I would love to see that, because you know, like, because people, you know, will joke that I say this a lot, but the gun is the great equalizer. You know,
absolutely. We said the very same thing.
Yeah, this is this is not a deadlift. We're not deadlifting things. We're not tackling people. Like, this is about the art of the gunfight. That's what this is about. And everyone has a gun. And there are, you know, obviously, you know, men are stronger than women on average, on the aggregate, but this is not a strength game. That's not what this is about. You know, that's not what this is about. I'm not saying that women can't be stronger than men. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying that that's not what this is about. This is a game about gunfighting skill, about tenacity under pressure. Yes, it does require a certain amount of athleticism to do it, but we will see, because mark my words, it will happen at some point in time. I don't know when this is going to happen, but we will probably see. It'd be great if it happens, but, you know, sooner rather than later. But because the gun is the great equalizer, and that this is not a game, it's like, look at the Dynasty guys, dude. These guys are going out here at 40 years old and playing the best paintball they've ever played. You're telling me there's not some badass female chick coming up that's as athletic or as fast as some of those dudes that are 40 years old, or 40, some of these dudes are 45 years old. Like, if we run a 40-yard line race or do an agility skills, you know, there's definitely going to be some females that are in their early 20s that are going to be more agile than some of these dudes that are out here that are still playing this game at an incredibly high level. But the most important thing to remember is this game, that's not what this game is about. It's not just about agility. It's not about speed. This game is about mental acuity in those pressure situations in the gunfight. That's what the game is about. I've said this on multiple shows before. I'm going to keep saying it because it's such a good example. But when you look at the Notorious guys and what they did to earn that pro spot, and I had a little slight talk with them at I think it was in Sacramento last year, and so we're like midway through the season, and they had a really rough game, and they just had a really lot of bad deaths in their, you know, forward spots, and I had a couple of seconds to talk to them because, again, I don't really have long breaks, you know, like very, very, very short breaks. So I had put this message in a very condensed thing. And I said, like, look, you know, to be honest, what I said is, like, what the fuck are you guys doing out here, man? Like, this is not a game of reflexes. Like, Ryan Greenspan is 41 years old. How old are you? 23, 24, 20, 26. I'm like, okay, if I put you on a machine and I test your reflexes, and I put Ryan Greenspan or any of these older dudes that are in the league on a machine to test the reflexes, who do you think is going to have faster reflexes? Don't answer. It's not Ryan Greenspan. Like, Ryan Greenspan is a bit of a freak of nature, and maybe he does still have like 22-year-old reflexes. That would not surprise me. But the point is the same. is that paintball is not about reflexes. All of those things help. It's very fundamental if you have the ability to be, quick-witted and quick of reflex. But that's not what wins and loses paintball tournaments. What wins and loses paintball tournaments is when most of the time when you have really good teams playing each other, is that you're going to see a situation and multiple situations where the plan goes to shit and the three need to beat the three over here need to beat the three over here, or the four need to beat the two, and sometimes the two beat the four, or whatever. And that's why we call it the scramble, because everything gets mixed up. Prevailing in those situations, that's the difference. And so with those, and it was so cool to see Notorious, turn it around, because they went from getting into those, important positions and gunfighting their way sloppily into deaths by not thinking. And then all of a sudden now they're a pro team and they made a Sunday, so like that's what's possible. This is a game that definitely has to do with how physically, your physical ability and how agile you are, but that's not what wins and loses paintball tournaments. So, I mean, I could choose a handful of guys that are not the fastest, not the smallest, not the most nimble creatures, but they're really good at gunfighting, and they're very experienced, and they do not get rattled in pressure situations. So yes, let me see it. Come one, come all. I would love to see it get as diverse as possible, because again, paintball is a true meritocracy. It only matters, like, this is a keep what you kill situation. The only thing that matters is how good you are at this. That is it. That's it. That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah,
definitely. God, of course. And again, Matty put it so
succinctly. Yeah. I mean, I in previous shows, I've called you a wordsmith, and I really feel like that's a very apt description.
I hope I'm not disappointing you guys right now, because
no,
not one bit.
Yeah,
not one bit.
Not at all. So to get away from a little bit of paintball, and obviously you read a lot, as we see in the background, and you love Mexican food. What are some other things that you enjoy doing aside from all those things? So like other hobbies, or just what do you do?
Man, I've done a lot of stuff over the years. Was into backpacking for a while. Obviously I read copious amounts of mostly nonfiction, history, science, political science. I am going to be doing a history storytelling podcast.
Nice.
So I've been working on that for probably about 5 years. As far as kind of just really diving into, it has so many different concepts to wrap my head around what I feel like I need to know in order to be somebody that can tell those stories. And then, I'm a pretty involved father. I love golf. I have a ton of friends, so definitely spend a decent amount of time with my friends. I love gardening. I could nerd out hardcore on all of those topics. So, this is like a little small slice. I don't know where you guys want to go with it. What do you guys want to nerd out? I can't stay too much longer.
No, we've actually gone over. This is the longest episode we've ever done, so we probably should let you get back to your family. We apologize.
Well, my son's already asleep, so that ship has sailed. But I'm, again, I just think it's fascinating, because it's like, we talked about how, the world needs people to do things immediately for them, and that's one of the ways that the world works. But I also, in that same breath, I would say that, it is important, if you're showing up and somebody's bleeding, I need a doctor. But if, but I also feel that, when you're looking at solutions to things, that there are obviously short-term immediacies, and then long-term, more giant things on the aggregate that need to be attended to. And I've definitely become a big proponent of trying to convince every good person that I know to have as many children as they possibly can. Just because the world needs more good people, and good people raise good. It's like, that whole like hurt people type situation.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we can just, raise as many human beings up, look, I think, getting hurt a little bit is going to help you be a resilient human being. But it's like, how are you getting hurt? Are you getting hurt by losing a paintball tournament? Or are you getting hurt because your, dad's beating you in a situation when you should not be getting beat? So so I do try to be as good of a dad as I possibly can. I think that's really important. Family is incredibly important to me. It's one of the reasons I decided to stay in San Diego, because I do have family close. And yeah, man, just knowledge, nature. There's, I don't know, gunfighting. I definitely enjoy doing gunfight stuff. Definitely, there's some people we work with here in San Diego occasionally get a chance to go down and do force on force training. I've done a decent amount of this with military guys over the years.
Nice.
I wish I could do that more, to be honest. That would be really fun. I feel like that's that's probably one of the, when we talk about, I don't know, I lose a little patience sometimes when people start talking about like what's wrong with the world. Because there are, it's like, I'm going on Ryan Greenspan's podcast tomorrow, and the shirt I'm going to read the shirt I'm going to wear, it says "read a fucking book." Because there's a lot, like the world it's decodable, like the world is decodable. There are a lot of mysteries out there, but base reality is decodable, and the world could be so much better if people had more intentions of trying to make the world a better place. And so with and the reason why I'm bringing this up with what I was just discussing is that, during 2020, when I saw this whole, like the whole defund the police movement and all that sort of stuff, and the experiences that I've had training law enforcement, and not a ton, but enough to learn certain lessons. And I'm like, no, the way forward is to make it harder to become a cop and make them way, way, way more highly skilled at what it is that they do. Because I've been involved in some stuff that was, to be honest, a little embarrassing for law enforcement, where I'm like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Like they should be more, these people should be more trained, because a lot of the stuff we see out in the world is honestly just a repercussion of not being involved in the mindset needed to prevail in a situation that society could potentially put you in. And that's where a lot of these things are coming from. Unfortunately, that's just seems to be it's just not really that complicated. If we're putting people in a really treacherous situation and they don't have any experience in those treacherous situations and that mindset, if it's like, if you're getting shot at and you've never been in a simulated gunfight, good luck. That's going to be a rough day for you, and you may not go home. So the fact that we do have the ability to train our law enforcement in gunfight situations, and that there's a thing called, Brazilian jiu-jitsu that, everyone could go train if you're in law enforcement. Anyway, so that sort of stuff. But it's like, so those are kind of interesting stories. Definitely had some of those, again, being around Camp Pendleton. We've done military training stuff with a lot of different branches of the military, anywhere from Rangers to Recon Marines to the teams, different law enforcement agencies over the years, all the way down to just like straight dudes that are in the National Guard that are about to get deployed. That was probably the most depressing day I've ever had doing any sort of training ever. I would love to do that more, to be honest. Like, that would be really cool, because I think that's, again, when we're looking at like what society needs more of that, because the world would be a better place for everybody, for the cops, for the people that they police, that they're responsible for, or should be responsible for caretaking. I mean, if you guys want to talk about that a little bit before I go, we can talk about that. I don't know, wherever you guys want to go in these last couple of minutes.
Well, like I say, we went well over, and I mean, while it was awesome, we don't want to hold you up too much longer.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we probably should cap it pretty soon here, Gene. This poor guy wants to like relax and see his wife.
Well, we would love to have you back, Matty, on the show, and then we could actually get into more of that. When it comes to especially all the law enforcement stuff, I unfortunately was part of the riots and had to report down to LA.
Oh, really?
And had to deal with a lot of the people that were out there and getting called a lot of different things while I was out there, getting told that, basically they were threatening our lives while we were out there.
It's horrible. It's ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, because it's like, look, you guys are trying to band together for one cause, but you want to go and destroy everything and hurt us when we're just going out there doing our job to help, to just kind of de-escalate things. We're not going out there to escalate and wreck people. You know, we go and do that in other places, and that's our mindset, is to go and wreck fools. In this situation, we're there to de-escalate and just, you know, try to pacify, because we're in the middle of the road. We can't lean one way or the other. When I put this on, I'm about this, and that's it. I don't, you know, go one way or the other. So, and I've trained with law enforcement also, and seen what they do. And obviously they're on this side of the spectrum. We're way on the other side of the spectrum when it comes to what we do. You know, we're kicking the door and let loose. They're kicking the door and they have to think about things, and they still don't get it right. And you're right.
Well, it's how can you get it right if you haven't been in that situation before? Because, and if you look at when you have, you know, there's a good example. I saw this the other day. I sent this to my wife actually, and it was some professional paintball or football team in the NFL. I can't remember, the Jaguars or something. A bunch of them went to go play paintball, and definitely have a decent amount of stories of playing paintball with pro athletes before too. But it always shocks me anytime you see, you know, a millionaire elite level pro athletes play paintball, because they look just as boot rookie as somebody on a bachelor party most of the time going to play. They're just a little bit more bulky and slightly, you know, and more athletic as they make their way, you know, to a bunker and then do a barrel roll into a spot. Right. But the point is that, you know, anyone, if you've done any, you know, it's like, okay, here, perfect example. There's a couple of them. If you've ever boxed, or you've ever done any jujitsu, or you've done ever any gunfighting, paintball, simunitions, like just pick your, you know, type of preferred simulation of shooting each other. And different ones have, you know, different benefits as far as realism is concerned.
Sure.
But every single time that people do that for the first time, they're doing it for the first time. And it doesn't, yes, again, if you're a very strong and athletic individual and you're doing jujitsu, but if you take somebody who's 6'3" and 240 pounds and they have no idea what they're doing at jujitsu, and you put them up against like a 5'8", 170-pound brown belt, like not even a black belt, maybe even like a blue belt or purple belt, like that dude's going to turn that big meathead into a fucking pretzel.
Yep.
Like if I take any badass, like somebody, like if I take, and this is what it always boggled my mind when I first learned about this in the military. And I know that recently, or well, in the past, you know, 15, 20 years, thank God, we've gotten our, you know, our people in the military a little bit more force on force training. But when in the middle of the Iraq war, and I was talking to some of the guys that were doing the training sessions there, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't make any sense. What it sounds like is you have a human being that's like, I want to fight in the UFC. And they're like, okay. So the United States government is like, okay, cool. You want to fight in the UFC? Let's do it. So then, all right, listen to all these rules I'm going to teach you. Do a bunch of push-ups and pull-ups. All right, say all these things, and then hit this pad. Okay, cool. You now get in the ring for one round. Okay, cool. You did one round. All right, tight. Now we're going to have your cage fight. It's like, wait, what? Like, so, and we do the same thing with the cops. It's the same shit. So it's unfortunate, because now they're being put in a situation where they could completely not only destroy their lives, destroy somebody else's life or lives, plural, but also potentially light the country on fire, which is what we've seen recently. And that is the repercussion of not training our law enforcement officers to the capabilities that our society could train them to. Because if we really wanted to do that, we have the ability to make that happen, and it would vastly make everyone's experience better. It would, because if you were in that situation, for whatever situation it is, because if you're the person that could get shot and you have somebody that's been in a bunch of simulated gunfights with simunition rounds in a kill house, like, well, that person's been through a decent amount of reps, and they'll be less likely to shoot that person.
Yep.
The person that's obviously, you know, the law enforcement officer, their survivability is going to go through the roof. And then now we're going to be having less people be getting killed that shouldn't be getting killed, because some of these people definitely should not be getting killed, but they're getting killed because these people are scared and because they don't have the training that we should be giving them as a society. So I feel bad for everybody. I feel bad for society. I feel bad, obviously, for the people getting killed that shouldn't be getting killed. If you should be getting killed, well, guess what? You fuck around and find out. You know, like I don't have a ton of sympathy for people doing stupid ass shit and ruining our society. But again, there's a lot of nuance here. This is a very complicated discussion. Anyway, so again, I could talk for hours about this, but that's been my experience. And gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. We could continue this conversation at a different time, but yeah, there's just a lot to that. And again, that's one of the gifts of paintball. It humbles you. It makes you realize that you are, first of all, it humbles you, but it strengthens you at the same time. So at the same point that you realize that you are not Mars, the god of war, it also makes you understand that you are not made of glass, and that you can go out and persevere through adversity and be better the next day. And then maybe one day you will be Aries. Maybe you will be Mars,
Yeah.
But
it's, as they say, iron sharpens iron. So
absolutely. So, but yeah, for sure.
Matty, honestly, this has been like one of the best, and not to take anything away from Rich, because we don't want to get him mad.
I'm not trying to get Rich to punch me, bro. So yeah, we could say that Rich was the best ever. I don't really give a shit because he gets a little salty. He's actually softened a lot up in his old age, but
you know what? We noticed that when he was talking with us. I was like, he's nowhere near as like angry and rough edges as we thought he would be.
Well, he said it was his daughters that did that to him. So
yeah,
did have 2 daughters, and yeah, you guys got kids?
Oh
yeah, we both have daughters. They're born 2 weeks apart.
Then you guys know, having daughters will soften up. That'll soften your soul up a little bit, dude.
Absolutely.
I don't have a daughter. But I have a son. But I have a lot of friends with daughters. Like everyone has daughters. Essentially, there's almost no one I know that has kids that doesn't have a daughter. It was like the paintball. It was, well, not the curse, because daughters are amazing too. But it was just hilarious that all these gnarly dudes that I knew growing up all ended up, like, almost to a one. They almost all ended up having daughters. Some of them more than one. Some of them had like 4 daughters. Davey Williamson has 3 daughters. Travis Szymanski has 4 daughters. I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, but honestly, Matt, you've been honestly the best. I know I said it twice, but the best interview we've had. Like, it has been very insightful, just everything that you've said. Like, I can't even say exactly how I'm feeling with just this talk, and it was really cool to be able to be on here. And also, I'm like partially fanboying out because, again, you were like one of the people that I put on my squad when I played Greg Hastings. I mean,
and you're talking to 2 of the bigger excessive fanboys out there too.
Oh,
so it's like, that says something.
Well, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, man. Again, our push into the world from what we're all trying to achieve is magnified by the multitudes getting it out there. So every single person pushing the narrative does nothing but help, because this is the only way forward. No one's going to come save us. We do a very strange thing. We cannot expect that Red Bull is just going to wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what? We do like guns. We definitely like guns. We like guns now, and we're down with paintball. So let's just spend $10 million on paintball next year. We can't expect that to happen. Okay. Like we do a very unique and special thing. This is our tribe, and let's circle the wagons and try to tell everyone how amazing it is. And not everyone is going to dig it, and that's okay. That's okay. I've come to terms with this now after spending 2 decades, and I'm going to still try. I'm not saying I'm not going to still try. Like I do. That's what I do every day. Try to figure out, what cool story I can tell to make people give a shit. But at the end of the day, it's people like you that make me really happy, because, again, it's like the mavens, so you have different people that move things into the world, and the concept of the maven, the specialist, whatever, the paintball nerd, whatever you want to call it, like there's a lot of different ways to describe that creature, but that person is very, very important, and they care, they love it, they know, They want to tell other people, and you guys are doing a very important job. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Oh no, thank you, Matty. Thank you again. Thank you for coming on and all that you've done, even for us, getting us going in the sport. Because it's your words that have driven us to want to keep playing, and then even watching just the the commentary and stuff. It's always fun to watch it and listen to you guys, the banter you guys have between you and Rich. So
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it is. It's like you poke that bear every morning, and it's great when I start watching.
I love fucking with them. It's great.
Well, and then hearing you talking with Jeff as well. I mean, you guys had a really good rapport. I thought that was a lot of fun listening to the two of you guys go back and forth as well. So,
well, I love talking shop, and I bring a lot of different diversity of voices up there. I mean, we have obviously Rich is a mainstay. We've had different people over the years, but I just, it's a long show. I mean, we have it's at least 10 hours a day. Sometimes longer than that, and 3 days straight. So, it's an evolving schedule, because then once some people get knocked out and some people go and some people have signings. And so it's like kind of producing that. It's like another thing I do while I'm hosting it. But yeah, I'm just trying to get people up there that I can have a conversation with. And that, again, we're just also trying to be entertaining. I tell everyone that comes up, I'm like, it's the 3 E's: energy, enthusiasm, and elaboration. So we're sitting up here and we're bringing it's the same, it's like what you guys are doing right here. It's like you are bringing, and I will tell people, depending on who I'm talking to, I'll say, hey, when you're sitting at the bar or the restaurant or the around the fireplace and you're talking to your buddy and you got them locked into a story, that's the type of energy that I need you to bring to this. And then that's the enthusiasm, because that energy that you bring to it creates an enthusiasm that is infectious. And the people that listen to that, then they siphon off your enthusiasm, and then that makes them it makes them care, because human beings are emotional robots, and you have to speak to people a certain way if you want them to care about something. That is just how the human being works. And then we elaborate, because you can't just say, yeah, Matty, and then not say shit. You got to continue to elaborate. We continue to have a visceral discussion going back and forth about things. We can argue. We don't have to argue, but ideally we are elaborating upon the situation that confronts our visual, moment. And no, that's just how it's done.
Love it.
Again, awesome. I mean, the way, dude, I'm just like speechless, honestly. I don't even know what to say.
How do you follow that up?
That's a great way to sum it up. And so, Matty, we will let you go. You have a great night, and we definitely, again, we'll want to keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll definitely want to send you one of our Behind the Mask t-shirts. So
love it.
I'll message you later, because I know you want to go and you want to hang out with your family. So we'll let you go. And thanks again coming on. Look forward to if we can get you back on, and maybe even with, the other beard, bring him on too. That would be great to talk to you guys both.
Totally.
So,
all right, boys.
Right, you have a good night, man.
Thank you so much for everything you guys do. It's a pleasure to be on the show, and I will see you guys soon.
All right.
Sounds good. We'll see ya. Thanks again. Man,
yes.
like,
I honestly, I felt like half my brain had collapsed whenever he was talking, because I was like, dude, I don't sound very articulate.
it's a very hard. Yeah, he's a hard show to follow. Not even gonna lie.
He talks, and I loved this conversation. Everything he was talking about was like, I'm like hanging on every word, and it's like, yeah, partially it's the fanboy, but it's also like, dude, that's deep. I never thought about that.
Yeah, and it's funny too. I actually just got a text message from Lupe. It said, "I told you he likes to talk."
He does, but the thing is, it's like I can keep talking to the dude. I can keep going.
Absolutely. I mean, if time were not of the essence, we could get so deep in the weeds on so many things with him. It would just be so fascinating.
And then he was saying how you tell him something is really cool and stuff like that, and he'd like to dig deeper into it. I want to try to get him into bad movies like me. See how deep you would get into it.
Yeah.
But man, if you guys are still hanging on and listening, and we're at This is the longest we've had. 2 hours.
This is the longest we've been on. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for staying on, guys. It's, it was an honor. It was a pleasure. It was like unbelievable. Last time I actually saw him was, I think it was like 2 years ago when I went up to, what do you call it? It was one of the
Sacramento.
and the NXLs that I went to.
Yeah. Wait, it was the same time when you interviewed Niles, I think.
Yeah. And I didn't get, like, I'd asked him, but of course it was in between the when he was going back and forth. So I didn't really get a chance to talk to him and interview him, but it was cool. I mean, this dude, and I didn't get a chance to post up the picture I have that I took with him, and I think it was Rich, and it was them two at MPPL San Diego. And they were like, yeah, come around the table, stand right here. And I got to get around the table and took a picture with them. I was like, it was a cool moment.
Yeah.
But man, we definitely got to have him on again, because we can go deep into the weeds with him about all kinds of different things. And it was amazing. Matty, if you're still listening, man, dude, it was crazy. It was cool. It was honestly cool. Like everything he was saying, I was like, man, I wish I could sound that smart. Because, dude, I just sounded dumb when I was like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and then all of a sudden he just expounds on it. He's like, dude, I know what you're saying. It's like he's in my mind.
Yeah.
So, but it was cool. And if he wants to come up for some carne asada and all that other stuff, I will kick on the grill and straight cook it up for him, by all means. So, all right, guys. I know that Dennis hasn't eaten, because that's usually what happens before the show. So
yeah, I get off work, I come straight home and jump on camera.
So Dennis, as always, love being on this show with you. And last week's show, actually, you and Mike were amazing. I got to tell you, I know I texted you guys after the show was done, because I ended up watching the rest of it as I was driving, but you guys don't even, like, you don't need me. I'm just I'm just going to push a button and be like, all right, you can go for it. But
well, I mean, I'm going to speak for myself here. I mean, Mike has become one of the very good friends of ours. Lupe's in that group. Niles is in that group.
Oh yeah.
I always have a blast talking to Mike, because much like tonight, when he and I get on the phone, we go on for a while talking about everything, both paintball related as well as outside of paintball. So, I mean, that was a total blast. And I can't thank him enough for taking the time to jump on. Same with every time Lupe's on the show. We probably could go for hours and hours and never stop running out of things to talk about. So.
Yeah, it was great. And even the week before that was great. So it almost, I hate to say this, but it like kicked that spark back up for the show to it's like, man, we need to get more guests on the show. We need to start doing more. And I'm like, but I know I've been a little bit absent because of getting our other show going too. So it's just really hard to, find the time.
You wear a lot of hats, Eugene.
You
wear a lot of hats.
My plate is full, and I'm like, holy crap. But you know what? Guys, again, thank you for being on for this long, listening to our show. And I know the biggest part of it was, again, because we had Matty Marshall, who is amazing. And I can't say enough good things about that guy. I'd love to just hang out and talk to him more and stuff. So, all right, we're going to wrap it up, because we're here way longer than we should have. But it's okay, because it was worth it. So, you guys, as we've been saying before, in order to keep these lights on, metaphorically lights, while this light and this show going, we definitely could use your help. We have a way that you guys can help us, and that is by, as always, where is it? What is it? Oh my gosh. Let's see. Oh wait, wrong one. We're not Goonies.
I gave you a cookie. You gave me a cookie, gave you cookie. Gave me cookie, got you cookie. You gave me cookie, I got you cookie, man. Gave me cookie, got you cookie. We're even. We're even, Schmidt.
I love that show, but I also love cookies, guys. If you get a chance, if you want to support us, help us out in any way you can. Buckaroo has been the biggest supporter and has received gifts because we shower him with gifts, because he showers us with gifts. If you guys buy a cookie, it helps to support the show. It helps to keep the lights on of this show and keeps this show going. So get onto our Instagram. At the top there's the link tree. At the very top of the link tree, it says, like it says on the screen, buy us a cookie. Buying us a cookie will help us to get more merchandise so we can get it out there. And we're not talking about, so right now we're not even talking about selling the merchandise. We're talking about like literally giving out the merchandise. We used up our cookie money, broke open the cookie jar, and we got some shirts. We got some shirts made. So we got some shirts out to some of our, supporters and viewers, and we want to get more out to you guys. So by all means, buy us a cookie, and that'll help us also get a website. That's the next thing we're going to do. We're going to actually start a website. I've built one so far for the other podcast. We got to get one over here, and it'll have like all this information, all the merchandise, all that stuff on here too. Now that I learned how to build a better website. So it'll be nice, quick, and easy for this one. So really excited about that, guys. And it will be behindthemaskmedia.com. I was able to snag that one. So I'm excited. So again, buy us a cookie, help us out, support us. But also, again, if you want to get a hold of us, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Dennis has got his OnlyFans where on this side, he wears a jersey only and his Crocs that look up to him because they have Squirtle eyes on them. So we will be selling those, and that's another way we can get some cash. All right, guys. So enough of look at that. Now I'm able to talk because I don't have somebody that's way smarter than me using bigger words talking. So yeah. But I see what Mike's writing.
I was gonna say.
All right, Mike. All right. Yeah, you did pretty good last week. That's all I'm gonna say. You did pretty good. Almost there. But I am back. I'm gonna say it. So let's close these out, guys. As always, love having you guys here. Love talking to you guys and love talking about paintball. But in order to build this sport, we need to get out there, drop that cash on those counters of those stores, go out to those fields, support those fields, because in us supporting them, they'll support us because they'll get bigger when we drop their cash on their counters too. And then we have more places to play. All right? Do that. Get out there. Help them out. Help us out. See how it works. But as I do like to say at the end of our show, now it's time to say goodbye to all. No, I'm kidding. No, we don't do that. We're gonna get shut down for that one.
Right.
But guys, if you can shoot and you can move, you can play.